Hi, welcome to Green TV Show, the show dedicated to independent Green Party and Green Party candidates focused on Green New Deal, positive eco for the economy solutions, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, conservation jobs, weatherization jobs. With me on the show today is Kate Alexandrova, journalist. Kate, good to see you.
Thanks for having me over here again. And also our director today is Carey and Martin Dudley and Happy Garcia are working with us in the control room.
Thanks, Kate. And also joining us on the show is Dr. Isa Infante. Dr. Infante was the Green Party candidate for governor in Tennessee and a Green Party leader. Dr. Infante has a PhD, a master's degree from Yale, and a Juris Doctorate. Now, we want to go and take a look at one of Dr. Infante's campaign spots. I think you've seen it already, Kate. And we're going to roll that here in just a second. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Isa Infante, and I'm running for governor of Tennessee in the general election on November 4th, 2014. I want to offer to all the people of our state a healthy and just way to govern. We can have an empowered voter, good wages and the right to organize, first-rate public education and health care, a strong social security, a clean environment, economic and political control of our communities, social justice. I need your help to create a society where every Tennessean can be healthy, happy, and free. Donate, volunteer, and please vote green. Thank you. I am Isa Infante, and I approve this message.
Dr. Isa Infante, Green Party candidate for governor in Tennessee. We welcome you now to Independent Green Party, Green TV. Isa, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for calling me Isa. I was going to ask you to do that.
Dr. Infante, as we used to say back up in the hills, you got a little bit of book learning.
Just a little bit. I still prefer Isa.
Very good, very good. Let's start off with where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay, I was born in the Dominican Republic. My parents were Dominican and Puerto Rican, and so I'm half and half. We arrived in this country when I was 3 years old. I was raised in the Bronx, New York City. Spent most of my youth there, except for a year that I went to school in Canada, in Toronto. And then we moved to California in my final year of high school, and that's where I graduated from California high school. And then I spent 10 years, having a child and working and traveling, and until 1967 or so. That was the beginning of my activist career. I went to a founding convention for the California Peace and Freedom Party, and at that convention I was elected from the county from where I lived, Orange County. So I sat on the State Central Committee of the Peace and Freedom Party of California, and traveled every weekend back and forth, dragging my toddler daughter back and forth across the state. And of course,
how old was she then, your daughter?
She was 5 then, in 67.
Right. So she was giving you the what, too? She was telling your own version of the politics.
The poor child grew up with a placard of striking and boycotting. And so at that... During that time, there were 20-some of us on that committee. I was chosen as liaison to the Black Panther Party, so I worked very closely with Eldridge Cleaver, for those of you that remember him or his book. And after that, I decided in 1970, when I was 28, that I needed to go to college. So I went to the University of California and graduated there in political science, and then went to Yale and got my master's in political science, and then went back to the University of California for my PhD in political science. Then I went into the professions, as they say. I ended up teaching political science, and then I became an academic dean, and then an academic consultant, and moved through the ranks there, and ended up at the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C. from there, I was chosen to work under Jimmy Carter at the White House. Sarah Weddington was the young Texas lawyer at that time who had just recently won the Roe v. Wade case. And so she and I and 10 other women were selected to work at the White House setting up an interdepartmental task force on women under Jimmy Carter. So I was there for a year. And then I left there and went and did some consulting, traveled, sat on the boards of several organizations, nonprofits, and did some traveling outside the country. I've lived in about 8 states here in this country and traveled through most of the others, and lived in 4 or 5 countries and traveled in others. So I got to see, how people live in different places and under different circumstances. Then when in 1986, I decided that I had had enough of left brain work, and I needed some right brain activity.
Yeah.
I wasn't exploring my creative side.
Yeah.
So in addition to joining every community organization and running for all kinds of public offices in every state in which I lived, I also had to work for a living.
Right.
So I came to the South in 1986. I came to Tennessee and started an all-female bluegrass band.
That is nice.
Did you play Blue Moon in Kentucky? That's all I want to.
Retired from and knew nothing about bluegrass, but I liked the sound. So the five women and I traveled for a couple of years out of a van all over Tennessee and the other states, because I'm sure you're aware, bluegrass music is festival based. So we traveled and traveled for 2 years. And from there, I started doing theater work, and I've been in probably a couple of hundred productions. Had my own one-woman show, traveled with that, even as far as Budapest, Hungary, and California, and North Carolina.
Isa Infante, Dr. Isa Infante, if you've just turned in, you are watching Green Party Green TV. Dr. Infante has just let out a scandal, a largely well-kept secret, that people in the Green Party love bluegrass music.
At least I do.
I certainly do.
And then to culminate all of those experiences, when I hit 60 years old, I said, I have a dream that I have not fulfilled yet. As a child, I thought I would want to go to law school, and I never did do that. So at 60, I applied to law school and got in, and I went to law school in Boston, Northeastern Law School, and spent 3 years there, and then came back to Tennessee. So I've been in and out of Tennessee since the late 80s. And now I'm involved in several organizations. I was just this year elected to president of the Yale Club of Knoxville. I'm in a feminist collective. I'm on the board of a place called My Place Performing Arts Center. So I keep up my community activities wherever I go. I've joined the Green Party a couple of years ago, because I considered myself an honorary Peace and Freedom Party member all those years, but there is no Peace and Freedom Party in Tennessee. So the Green Party is just about the same thing. So I joined the party and immediately was elected coordinating chair.
Good.
Well, with that kind of experience,
no one wanted
I'm
to
not
do it.
surprised.
No, it's not me. Nobody wanted to do it. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, and when the opportunity came up this year for this election cycle, the group suggested that I should run for governor, and I said, of course. After what I've seen traveling around, that's what I think I should do at this point. And that leads to where I wanted to go next in this discussion, if you don't mind.
Please, Isa, go right ahead.
Okay. Because people ask me, well, why did you run for governor? It can't be because someone said you should run for governor and you decided to just give up your life and go do this. Actually, Tennessee, I have observed from outside the state and from inside the state, is rendered virtually impossible and invisible. When I travel in other states, the only things that people know about Tennessee are the tourist attractions. The Smoky Mountains in the east, Music City in Nashville, Beale Street Blues in Memphis. That's about all that people know about Tennessee. And as a matter of fact, the people in Tennessee don't know a whole lot more than that either. I just had the opportunity to travel the mountains and travel throughout the state. And recently meaning this year, I decided to do some research to find out the truth, because I was also in a theater group that traveled around the state, so I had the opportunity to see it from that vantage point. And I have some statistics. I don't know, this is very boring, but I'll make it really short, because Tennessee, according to recent studies, has been declared to be one of the poorest, the unhealthiest, the unhappiest, the least economically developed, and the most politically corrupt state in the nation. And that's something people generally don't know. People here generally know that they're suffering, that they can't make ends meet, that they have 10 illnesses, degenerative illnesses going on in their bodies, that things are not working out, but can't put their finger on it. So I thought I would get some figures for this current year.
Dr. Isa Infante on Green Party Green TV. Dr. Infante, Green Party candidate for governor in Tennessee. Dr. Infante talking about the challenges before the volunteer state, I believe is what Tennessee is called.
Yes,
I want to give you a supporting statistic. I'm holding right now the new book from the Green Party vice presidential candidate, Pat LaMarche, who was the Green Party nominee for vice president in 2004. And she has a chapter in her book about Tennessee.
Okay.
And I'll just read directly from it now.
Okay.
She says that Tennessee is one of the few states that does not have a payroll tax. It does not have an income tax.
Right.
All that is available to support public services are property taxes and a gigantic sales tax.
The largest, yes.
Tennessee is on the list with the 5 lowest tax burdens in the country. Pat LaMarche goes on to write in Daddy, What's the Middle Class? I'm not an economist, but if low taxes meant wealth, then Tennessee would be paved with gold. But Dr. Isa Infante of the Tennessee Green Party, Tennessee is not paved with gold. Or is it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I have a very fond memories. I used to spend my summers with my Aunt Edna and Uncle Newt down on their dairy farm in eastern Tennessee. And,
Oh, really? Oh.
all my mama's people were from there. And you're right. You know, we focused on the bluegrass music. We didn't hear much at all about the economics, and it was a shock to me when I read in Pat LaMarche's book, Daddy, What's the Middle Class, about these problems. She has a couple of more powerful paragraphs I want to read to you later in the interview, Dr. Infante. But please continue with the points you were making.
Yes, let me make these points because I think that few people know about this. And I'm going to talk, just cite some figures about economic situation and the health situation here in Tennessee. As of this year, August 2014, the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicated that our unemployment rate has gone up. The national unemployment rate has gone down, and ours has gone up from 6.7 to 7.4, where we are now, and it's over 11% in the African American community. Meanwhile, the national rate is going down. And then we have something about 7.4% of Tennessee's workforce earns at or below the minimum wage. Now, that's the highest proportion of minimum wage workers in the country. And
Dr. Infante, what is the minimum wage in Tennessee?
It's 7.25.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that affects 3.3 million workers. And in terms of seniors, the elders, almost a third of elders rely on Social Security for at least 90% of their family income. Social
Security insurance provides 90% of the income for what percent of the elderly?
For 32.7%. Exactly. And 50% of Tennessee workers in the private sector do not have a retirement savings plan offered by their employer. So they don't have security for their retirement, looking into the future. Another study showed that among the southern states that have a disproportionate number of people facing debt collectors is Tennessee. So people in Tennessee are borrowing money to stay alive. In the health sector, I want to mention that Tennessee, out of 50 states, is number 41, considered number 41 of the unhealthiest state in the United States. So we are number 26 ranking for access to emergency care. We're number 48, again, almost at the bottom of the barrel, among the states in support for people needing long-term care. And we are in the nation's top 10 states for the highest rate of overdose deaths due to prescription drug abuse. And now that is the leading cause of death in Tennessee, exceeding even motor vehicle wrecks. We're also second per capita in the nation for prescription drug abuse overdoses. Now, in another area, corruption, we are number 3. There are only 2 states that are more corrupt than we are.
Dr. Isa Infante, Green Party candidate for governor in Tennessee on Green TV. Kate Alexandrova, I'm Carey Campbell. We thank you for being with us on the show. Continue with
a couple of points.
Yes, ma'am. Please
absolutely.
continue.
But speaking of corruption, we do have another quote from Pat LaMarche's book.
Oh, good.
And it actually, it's about big companies that are getting lured in the state with, with all these promises that they do not have to pay property tax and such. Here's what it says. Amidst all this suffering, businesses like FedEx pay absolutely no property taxes. People may not know this, but many municipalities and states, in their attempt to lure in big companies, will say, hey, guess what, big company? You don't have to pay the property tax, or you don't have to pay the income tax even.
Yes.
And then the big companies, have the bold nerve to say, by the way, we're going to form a group to tell you what to do with your public tax dollars we are not paying.
Yes, and not only that, not only do they make money, pay the workers the minimum wage or below, and don't allow union organizing. So
what strategies do you have in mind for fighting all these issues, short term and in the long run?
What are the positive solutions, Dr. Infante?
Yes, I want to say one more thing, because you mentioned it first. About our motto here and our self-image is the volunteer state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Well, I found out that we are number 46 at the bottom of the barrel. That most of us here in Tennessee do not do volunteer work, and that
in the
destroys our
community.
self-image.
Oh my.
But that makes sense to me, because if you're unhealthy and you're poor and working 2 or 3 jobs, and you're in debt and you're in bad health and you are taking drugs, do you feel like, and do you have the energy or time or good health to volunteer for anything?
That's
No.
comprehensible.
And we have been called number 50, the unhappiest people in the nation. The AARP did a national survey, and they said we were number 50. We have the unhappiest people in the nation. Now, we have to do something about this.
That's the spirit. Dr. Isa Infante, Tennessee Green Party candidate for governor, Green Party leader in the state of Tennessee. I want to read you one final quote, if I may, here from Pat LaMarche's book, her 2 chapters on Tennessee.
Yes.
She notes that in a state like Tennessee, with no personal income tax, all those executives with 7-figure incomes pay no income tax. So.
Well, we have a corporate welfare state here. Everybody has to pay sales tax on everything. So the people who buy and have to purchase everything, which is, the majority of us in this state, 99% of us, we pay the taxes. The very wealthy either buy it through their corporations, or they go to another state or overseas to buy their goods and products. So they don't even end up paying sales tax, and we are supporting them. This is a corporate welfare state.
Dr. Isa Infante, governor candidate for the Green Party in Tennessee. The independent Green Party of Virginia, Dr. Infante, advocates for positive solutions. You heard at the top of the show, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, conservation jobs, all of the Green New Deal, eco jobs for the economy. One other thing that is key, part of this, and many Green Party candidates like Howie Hawkins have talked about it, is more trains, less traffic, building the rail infrastructure we need. And Kate, please tell us a little bit more about that.
The railroads were among the most powerful corporations of 19th and 20th centuries, and they were brought somewhat into line. Virginia's independent Green candidates believe it's time to bring large-scale rail transport back. Green candidates advocate for rail because rail saves lives and creates jobs. Expanded rail cars and metro rail, new dedicated passenger rail track for the VRE, a new passenger trail tunnel under the Potomac River. High-speed rail in the existing right-of-way along the interstate corridor will revitalize our economy and help protect our environment. New tracks and more trains that run more often. Rail is 1,000,000 times safer than auto travel. Rail pays for itself through economic growth and the reduced environmental impact, and will result in a healthy environment and healthier people. Green TV supports the expansion of rail because it makes sense. Every dollar invested in rail creates over $20 in economic benefit. Rail enhances national security, making us safer, more secure. Rail saves tax dollars. Rail makes money. Rail makes sense. Rail anywhere benefits all of America.
Dr. Isa Infante, that's a very subtle.
We don't even have a decent bus service. But I'm thinking rail because I was thinking of all the benefits to it and how I could start that conversation here. First of all, like you say, it would provide clean energy jobs, reduce the carbon emissions. It would help for the well-being of the individual. No more traffic jams, no more road rage, no more stress. It would help build community. People would actually get on a mode of transportation where they can meet and talk with people, unlike private cars. And it's less expensive than cars. You have to buy the car, maintain it, get gasoline, parking fees, registration, tags, insurance. So in many, many ways, rail absolutely makes sense to me. But I can't. It's just not something anyone here wants to hear. So I have to bring it up. And I'll be the sole voice for this for now.
Well, Dr. Isa Infante, Green Party candidate for governor in Tennessee. Dr. Infante, I have one other amazing thing I learned from Green Party vice presidential candidate in 2000, Pat LaMarche, in her book, Dadding What's the Middle Class? And this is about the Highlander Research Education Center, founded in 1932 in Mount Eagle, Tennessee, by Miles Horton and Don West. Let me quote in their founding document now. Their founding document said, "It's founded because they believe that society should be fundamentally restructured and promote democracy. Address systematic problems of poverty, injustice, and the poor and the powerless people. Should play a leading role in addressing the problems facing their communities."
And can I add to that?
Please.
It's still in existence, but at that time, I don't know if you're aware that the socialist movement, the Socialist Party, came out of that Highlander Center. And in fact, the first woman to run for governor of Tennessee was in 1936, Kate Bradford Stockton, and she ran on a Socialist Party ticket. Now, did you know that about the Highlander?
Well, I did know that, thanks to Pat LaMarche's book. I also know that Upton, thanks later to Pat LaMarche's book, that Rosa Parks was taught community organizing there, along with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And a personal friend of mine and Green Party Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Wangari Maathai. We always called her Winnie. That's why I had trouble with her proper name. Winnie founded the Green Party in Kenya and the Green Movement and won the Nobel Peace Prize and was a Highlander Research Education alum. And finally, to make your point about the Socialist Party, Upton Sinclair once the Institute was burned down and they had to rebuild it, he gifted new books to them. And your independent Green Party of Virginia is the most active on-ballot presence by a third party in Virginia in 100 years since the Socialist Party. Now, in conservative Virginia, some people are surprised to know or to hear that that was the party who preceded us as the most active. Dr. Infante, we're down to a couple of minutes for...
Oh my goodness, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future.
Please do, go!
Okay, well, as you know, I did not win the election, but I did receive just over 18,500 votes. Now, we have fewer than 1,000 Greens in the state, which means over 17,000 people who are not Greens voted for me. And I attracted and worked with, on my campaign, people who were Democrats, Libertarians, even Republicans, Socialists, Independents, and even anarchists. And so what I want to do is not let them down. You know, I need for them to see that all hope is not lost. So I want to continue to motivate them. I have kept on my website and my Facebook page, and I started a couple of new columns, an open letter column that people can submit letters to, and inviting people to advertise their local events so that people in their areas can go and connect with like-minded people. I'm considering also a community access TV program, which I've had in the past but was not able to do this time. I want to continue to sponsor events and actions throughout the state, and I want to get ready for the next election cycle. We lost our ballot line with this election. I did not get 5% of the vote. So we
Dr. Isa Infante, we're looking to the future, and that means having you back on Independent Green Party, Green TV to talk about all the positive solutions coming up. All right, Kate Alexandrova, thank you for being here today. Did you have fun?
Oh, yes, I had fun.
And run for office. Those are my final words. Run for office.
More candidates, less apathy. Thank you so much, all of our viewers. Thank you for joining us on Green Party, Green TV. Thank you, Isa. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate. Bye.